So what, we do this 999, we get 10 clear minutes?
Kill a cop, you get all damn day.
When 999 gets called in, all units in the area converge on the down officer. It's open season. Everybody wants a piece of cop killing.
It's like pulling the plug and the whole force going down the drain.
And you absolutely sure that you can make this happen?
Oh, yeah.
All right. You the police.
So that's a clip from 999, and I'm joined by the star now, Chiwetel Ejiofor. How you doing, mate?
Very good, very good.
Good to see you.
And you. And
Great.
you.
I think my heart rate has just calmed down from seeing your film a couple of days ago. I mean,
Yeah.
we jump right into it, don't we? You play a character called Michael Atwood, and he leads a crew of guys, ex sort of special forces, but also corrupt serving police officers as well, isn't it? And we meet them at this heist, this bank raid. But they're not there for the cash, are they? Just tell us a little bit about the start of this movie.
Well, they're basically doing jobs for the Russian mafia. You know, that's run at this point by Irina Velashnov, who's played by Kate Winslet, who is brilliantly played by Kate Winslet. And so they are getting documentations, they are getting discs for them, for the Russian mob. So they go into this heist, which is it's essentially a bank heist, but they have a specific security deposit box that they're going after, with materials that the Russian mob want. So it looks as if it's a kind of a standard crash and bash, as they say, as the police say down there. But obviously they start to uncover that there's sort of deeper motivations going on.
And the title 999, it's a specific. It's basically 999, but it's a call out that the Atlanta police, and that is the second job that you do, isn't it? Because Irina, Kate Winslet, you do the first job, but like in all these great things, she wants to top that. She needs something else.
She needs, something else, which is basically impossible for us to achieve in the time limits that we have in this kind of group of us. And so the one of the guys, who's also a serving police officer, but obviously deeply corrupt, comes up with the idea of doing a 999 or a 999, which is
officer down.
Which is officer down.
So that means if a police officer gets shot, the call goes out, and all the police in the vicinity just drop what they're doing and head for that place.
Yeah. It basically drains the police force from surrounding area for a while, which will buy them an extra few minutes. And so that becomes the idea they go with. They just need to find patsy.
What's great about it, I think, and there's many great things about it, but your characters, you're the bad guys, the good guys, but even in the bad guys, there are good guys inside the bad guys. Because your character, Irina, Kate Winslet's character, she has a special hold over you, doesn't she? What is that?
Well, her sister and I, her sister's played by Gal Gadot, obviously have had a long-term relationship. We have a child, so Irina is the sort of very overprotective aunt to this child, and the boy, sort of lives with them essentially.
She controls your access to the boy, doesn't she?
Yeah, exactly. So that is that is the major hold that she has over Michael, and therefore by extension over the gang and what they do. The gang isn't actually fully aware of all of Michael's history with Irina, as well. I mean, they suspect things, but they don't know the full extent of it. So she's able to play the sort of strings of this group.
And that emotional tie. What's really great, because all of you, I mean, Aaron Paul is in part of the gang, and he's slightly like a loose cannon inside there. But you all, in a way, strangely seem to be more comfortable in the midst of the madness that is the heists and the action. That in your emotional life, you're all falling apart, really. And that's what it's great. That I love that.
Yeah, they do. They live for the fog of war. These guys, that's what they kind of recognize. That's what they're trained to do. And it's sort of become their only sort of access to kind of normality. I definitely felt that when we were filming it, those were the moments that Michael's the most at peace and knows what he has to do. Everything is planned out to a millisecond, and he goes.
But that psyche of your character, if you're researching, say, something like The Martian, where you're researching scientists and sort of you go and meet those guys. But when you're researching major bank robbers, I mean, who do you go for your research? Where do you find?
How do you find the bank robbers these days? Well, I suppose in the end, it was like you have to sort of you have to piece together the character, I think, in a way.
Yeah.
You know,
But you start with the special forces. But,
yeah, I started really with Blackwater and what those kind of groups. You know, people who are the mercenaries today, who are the kind of dogs of war of today, and who go to places and fight essentially for companies. You know, and then come back slightly brutalized, slightly damaged, but without any access to any of the sort of normal kind of moral access that you can have. You know. So, I mean, and, you know, there are pictures of those guys all online, and even in Iraq, and, you know, and the sense of them being kind of sort of just loose cannons, you know, like sort of
brutalized by what they've seen.
Yeah, and done, you know. I mean, there's all of that footage of Blackwater operations, you know, that you can see on YouTube and so on, and just like sort of mowing people down in Iraqi towns, you know, and so trying to understand the sort of psychology of people like that, people who are militarized in that way.
But there's a loyalty inside that, isn't there?
Sure.
What's great about the group, you know, you and my old mate Norman Reedus, who play, you seem to be like the really tight, loyal friends inside this group, and by proxy, you have a loyalty then to his brother, who's Aaron Paul, who's the loose cannon.
Sure.
That loyalty is very important to men like this.
I think that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think that is that kind of the sort of band of brothers mentality. You know, that sense of that they've gone through all of the things that they've had. You know, and I think they've gone through really morally ambiguous circumstances, which they then brought back to the States, in the sense that they brought that back to Atlanta, and they've kind of connected with the Russian mob, and they've been able to create a life for themselves, you know, post their conflicts, but together, you know. And so, you know, they do have these emotional and moral ties. They do become these kind of very complex people, which is great to play.
And your entry into this film, you know, where your first starting point is, even before the script, is it sort of meeting John Hillcoat and sort of being an admirer of his work? Is that where a project like this would start?
Yeah, that's how it was. That's how it began. I actually I met John about it a long time ago, like, you know, 5-6 years ago. We met in Los Angeles to talk about it, and then it kind of went away for a while, you know, in the way that these things do, and then it kind of it sort of came back, and it was always something that I was excited with. I'm so excited about, you know, John as a director, because you know, just his kind of just the visual language and the immersion of the experience is just so phenomenal. It's a complete kind of universe.
Well, let's talk about that a bit, because you do, like I said, you know, my heart was pounding. You do, I know Atlanta well because I've lived there a while. And it starts with this heist, but then there's two spectacular car chases in the film. But the first one is you on the freeway, a freeway I know very well. I mean, did you just close the city down?
Yeah. That's exactly what
I mean, this is like, you know, closing down the Westway or something in London, or, you know, the M1 or whatever. It's the major thoroughfare.
Totally full on.
6-lane highway.
Yeah, we had to take, I think we had to take the whole lot, and just like, you know, for
how long?
Quite, I think we shot that sequence over not too long, you know, over the course of a week or so, I think, with main unit and second unit. And so, you know, it was a big and complicated sequence, and we had to take over a lot of the highway to do it. And there was also a lot that's in the internal mechanics of the sequence. You know, there's a lot of story to follow in terms of the
lots
car
of
chase.
character inside there. That's what, and both those car chases, actually.
Yeah.
It's all about the characters.
Yeah.
And you know, and there's many characters that are feeling the moments in there as well. I thought it was brilliantly executed.
Yeah.
But also with Atlanta, it showed me, you know, and I feel like I know the city quite well. It showed me a side of the city I didn't know well. And you film in quite harsh areas there.
Yeah, I think that is the other thing about the film, is that you get to see the other side of Atlanta. Because like you know, whenever I've spent time there, it's all been, you know, Buckhead and the local Whole Foods, you know, and then really sort of getting to you know, just going out into the city and really seeing, you know, obviously all of the different kind of sides of it is pretty, you know, it's arresting, you know, and I think that's a very, very interesting part of the film.
And how was that? How was filming in those sort of more deprived areas of the city? I mean, was that a welcoming place to? Because it's quite harsh, the stuff that happens there, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it was. I think we just wanted to try and get to grips with the kind of reality of the place.
You certainly do,
and just really sort of have a go at kind of deeply kind of understanding and representing where these guys are from, and the sort of lives they live, and and what they see, you know, what they experience, and what hardens them in a way. And I think it just, you know, the place itself and the way that it's shot and the way that you experience it, you know, does a lot to explain the psychology of the people, of these guys, and what they do within, how they operate within this structure.
Yeah. And also even that corruption of police force is very, you can see how easy that could happen, really.
Yeah.
You know, the compromises people made. Now you're undoubtedly now an A-list actor in Hollywood, and with that gives you lots of choice. It gives you the chance to work with fantastic people and talented people. The flip side of that, though, is slightly things like, you know, being on that promotional roller coaster, the sort of the fame that comes with that. There's notoriety. Your life has changed. How's that side of what's happened to you in the last couple of years? How do you manage that?
Well, it's always complicated. You know, it's you know, I think the sort of main thing is, it's always the sort of negotiation with privacy and anonymity, you know, that is like always really complicated, and I think is psychologically complicated for people in the public eye, you know, and it's always something to be careful of and to deal with and to try to protect as much as you can, I think, without, you know, spending every last dime on privacy.
But do you tend to isolate it?
Well, that's the thing. You want to watch that as well, and you know, and make sure that that doesn't affect how you can kind of communicate with people and understand the world, you know, because obviously that's important in terms of how you work with character.
And it's also that strange thing, is that dichotomy, isn't it? I mean, I remember I met you many times, but you were on the promotional trail for 12 Years a Slave, and we were at a big swanky party, and that had been going on that tour had been going on for a long time for you, but you're renowned for playing real characters. You know, you really do play people, like in this movie, you know, people who you can really identify. But the more the fame you get takes you away from that world sometimes, doesn't it? And that's a very odd thing.
Yeah, I think that is ultimately the kind of the sort of slightly complex struggle in terms of not being too isolated, so one has always the ability to access the world as you know it, and so therefore can kind of
you're not just doing swanky parties all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not just playing the guy at the swanky party.
And you're about to move into the Marvel world, aren't you? Have you done that? Are you doing that, or is that?
We're still shooting.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, still shooting Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, and you play Baron Mordo.
Right.
Is that right?
That's true.
Yes. I know Marvel, you just can't talk much about it, but that must be so fun.
Yeah. No, it's been really exciting, and I think that the film is pretty unique as well, and I think it's just got, you know, a lot of incredibly exciting elements, and I've been having a great time, you know, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Tilda Swinton, you know, in particular, a really great cast of people, actually.
And do you prepare in any different way for something like that, from a characterization way? Are people sort of, you know, the character has already been formed in a way? I mean, having played someone that came from a comic strip myself, or a comic book myself, is there ownership of the characters from other people that you have to sort of knock down those barriers?
Yeah, I suppose you looking at it a little more holistically in the end, you know, because it is something that has been around for so long, and so many people already have opinions about it and are kind of involved with. And I think it's kind of important to take that into account, not necessarily in a portrayal, but to know what you are doing and what you're not doing, if you know what I mean.
To honour it.
Yeah, you know, and to make choices about that, but know why you have, you know. And I feel like that's a kind of a good part of the process that you don't necessarily have to do with many other things, really.
And what about the theatre? Because some of the great, I was fortunate enough to see Othello and Everyman at the National. I mean, is that on your radar at all in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the theatre.
that was the plug, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly, a little segue.
No, but I mean, because sometimes people end up in Hollywood and they don't come back in that way. I mean, is it something that you still yearn to do?
Yeah, no, it's a very important part of my working life, is being in the theatre, and it teaches me an incredible amount every time I do it. Every time I'm engaged with the theatre, and you come away from the experience having learned so much about the profession and how to be an actor, you know.
Well, that's great.
And so it becomes very vital, you know, being in the theatre, seeing theatre, and just sort of being around it, and you know, so always excited for those opportunities when they arise.
Well, I can't wait to see you on stage again, and go and see 999. It's fantastic, and thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure, thank you.